Verbally Effective, your double Ina Esco here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another episode of the Verbally Effective podcast. I just want to thank you guys for supporting the Ivy Multimedia merch line. You're getting those hoodies, those tees, and those masks. I really appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys are following me on all social media platforms at Ina Esco. That's ENAESCO to get your merch. Click that link. Today, I am joined by the beautiful, beautiful Jasmine Wilson. She is a business coach, and she's also in the healthcare nonprofit industry, and she's in politics. West Tennessee Vice Chair for the Tennessee Democratic Party, also Tennessee Senate District 30 Committee Woman. How are you, Jasmine?
Hi, Ina. I'm wonderful. I'm so excited to be.
Yes, and you look so beautiful today. You look so gorgeous on this morning. So I'm going to kick it off how we always do on the podcast. Where are you from? You are not from Memphis. Where are you from, Jasmine?
I am not. So I think like any military kid, you can claim a lot of places as home. So in general, I say I'm from Georgia. I was born and spent a lot of my early years in Columbus, Georgia. I went to middle school and high school out west in Lakewood, Washington. That's
Wow.
not DC, the other side.
Okay.
Um, and then
Gotcha.
spent my college years and most of the time following in Atlanta, spent a year in Orlando, and then landed in Memphis about 8 years ago.
8 years ago. Okay, I got you. Let's go back to Georgia, Columbus, Georgia. How was it growing up in that particular area? And tell me about your family unit.
Okay, yeah, sure. So my dad was in the military, in the Army. And if you know anything about the Army, at some point in time in your career, you're going through to Columbus, which is where my mom was born and raised and where her family lives. And so that's where they met. And that's where I was born. And the one thing I will say, people are always like, Jasmine, you are so loud. And that's the way I can describe my family. Like my family growing up around, specifically my maternal side of the family, everybody is loud and a little bit country in all the best ways, and loud, not only in the volume of our voices, but in our love and our care for each other and for our community. So I grew up in a multi-generational house with my great grandfather, my cousins, my first cousins, a second cousin, a great aunt. So really just spent a lot of my life like around folks that are now, our ancestors, and soaking up all of that wisdom, but also like always having somebody to play with, to get in some mischief with, um,
Yes.
and have a good time.
Wow. Yeah, I was about to say that's a lot of wisdom to be able to be around growing up. Some good advice, right?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Wow. So I do know that you attended Spelman College. Why did you choose to go to a HBCU, and how did that come about? What did you major in? Tell me everything about Spelman.
Yes. So funny enough, like Spelman was the school that I decided in 8th grade I'm going to
Oh,
Spelman.
wow. Eighth grade.
And it was something about the school. People are like, you want to go to a school with all girls? I'm like, yes, I want to go to Spelman. And so I always wanted to go. Came time to apply for schools, my mom, who's the reasonable person, she's like, you should apply some other places. So I applied to, all of the HBCUs everyone knows, Xavier, Howard, Hampton. But Spelman was the first one I heard back from, and it was my first choice. And so being able to go there in what I call like the magic of like time in Atlanta, which is like early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
like it was just a special time to be in the city, but to also be at Spelman. And Spelman is what I like to call Disney World for Black women, because
Yes.
it is a place that's solely created for you to be the best that you can be. You know, so it was a place where I was uplifted, where I was affirmed and encouraged, but also challenged, because it was not an easy time at all. And I majored in sociology and had the privilege of having professors who were also, you know, Spelman sisters who had previously graduated and practiced law and wrote books, and then decided that they wanted to come back and pour into the next generation of leaders that were coming out of Spelman. So yeah.
Wow. You know, you hear so many things about Spelman, and like you mentioned, it's all women. So how did their dynamic, you know, play on entertaining the boys, maybe? Like, did you entertain the boys across the way over there?
So, yes, I mean, of course, Morehouse is diagonal across one parking
Hmm.
lot, and Clark Atlanta is right out of, you know, the back gate of Spelman. And so there were lots of opportunities to see men, to see boys,
Yeah, they
even
were
when you
always
didn't want
around.
to.
Yeah.
Yes. Like,
Wow.
there weren't very many like elective courses or foreign language classes that you walked into, and there wasn't at least like, you know, a couple of guys who decided to cross register and take the class at Spelman. And I also had the opportunity to cross register and take a class at Clark Atlanta, and of classes Morehouse. So for it being a all women's institution, I saw way more men than you might think.
Had to ask, but I also know that you were in the choir, right? Tell me about that. Are you an alto, soprano? What was going on with these vocals?
Definitely an alto, because church choir, soprano, Glee Club soprano are not created equal. So yeah, I sang in the Spelman College Glee Club for 4 years, and you know, gave up 3 spring breaks to travel the country with you know, a smaller group of our Glee Club on a spring tour. And honestly, if I could do it all over again, I would absolutely would make that sacrifice and be a part. Music is just such a uniting force in general. You could have nothing in common with a person, and when that certain song plays, it's like you've
You're like,
known each other
oh.
forever. Exactly. It creates a vibe. It creates a special experience, and that's what the Glee Club was. From singing, you know, gospel songs to hymns, classical, choral music, like it was an unforgettable experience. And we got to perform with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra.
Wow.
We sang at one of the like memorial wake services when Coretta Scott King passed away.
Wow.
And so there was just something so special about that experience, and almost, you know, sacred in being able to be able to share it with you know, the communities that we performed in front of.
Awesome. Now, what did Jasmine do once she graduated from Spelman? What was going on in your life at that point?
So I had the distinct privilege and honor of graduating in 2008, which is, you know, core housing. Remember, you know, when I graduated, I wanted to be a PR girl. That's what I wanted to do. And so I had interned with this woman who is still moving and shaking, named April Love, and was helping her with a bunch of stuff that she was working on, including the very first season she was representing Lisa Wu Hartwell at the time, who was a part of the first season of Real Housewives of Atlanta. So just
Look, hold on 1 second.